Hello, good people, and welcome to the Amateur Hour. My name's Justin,
My name's Tyler.
I'm the one called Junior.
and today's sponsors are EBXYA and Adam Stone. So it's a strange yet fantastic day in the world of the Amateur Hour. Because let me tell you, we don't have Junior and Tyler. So our intro, we tricked you guys. You know, you think that we have them here. Well, we don't. And yes, we pre-recorded. Okay, there's explanation. Okay, it's easier. As simple as that. It's easier to edit, and it saves me time. The end. Besides the fact, Austin is here with us, and it's a one-on-one episode. Now, I've had one with Junior. I've had one with Tyler. Well, I got one with Austin. And you know what? Before we start today, we got one extra subscriber, Austin. We got 41 subscribers now. And
41.
for that one subscriber, you know who you are. We appreciate you, you know? And if you guys are at home listening, and I know there's quite several of you listening, because we got, not to brag, but like 100 and something views on our last episode, and 300 on the previous episode before that. So I just kind of want to say, if you like the video or the podcast episode, and subscribe. And hit that notification bell, because every subscriber helps, so we can be easier to find. Let's get that URL. We unlock a URL at 100 subscribers for YouTube, and we really want to be able to use that amateur hour tag, so that way it's easier to find us, and we're not being lost between all the other million amateur hours apparently that are out there. So, and again, we appreciate you. We appreciate every like. We really want more comments. Positive, that is. I mean, even if it's negative, I guess, why not? And please follow us on our Twitter and Instagram. But let's get into it. So, Asti, I've been thinking about Tesla. And do you like Tesla cars? Do you like their vehicles?
I think that they're for what they are, they look good. I like more sporty looking cars. I'm more of like a Camaro, like I own a Camaro, Corvettes, those kind of cars are like aggressive looking vehicles, whereas Tesla's more like, I don't know, nonchalant, luxurious. But I can respect what they're doing. Like for what they are, they're really nice. And like maybe someday whenever I have a family, I think it'd probably be pretty cool to own one for like a grocery getter car and like have the family in.
Yeah, I mean, over the past couple of months, I have been becoming obsessed with Tesla's vehicles. Like, for example, the Cybertruck. I'm super excited. It's a jarring new design that not many car manufacturers are going with, and especially it being bare steel, like that's phenomenal. There's several things that I like about the Cybertruck. I like the idea that you don't got to worry about rust. Tyler says that there is corrosion apparently with stainless steel, but I don't know how true it is. What's the science behind it? I'm not gonna lie, but at least no rust is a lot more better. And the body of the vehicle is supposed to be able to handle, I forget what caliber of gunshots as well to it. So it's almost like a bulletproof vehicle. And it's supposed to get a lot of miles. I think it was like, I want to say like 50,000 or something like that. A crazy amount of miles like per charge. And the Cybertruck has a back to it that they're thinking of developing, where it's a solar panel on the bed of the truck. So the bed of the truck actually closes completely, which is really cool. It's like a long steel door. If you guys don't know what the Cybertruck is, that closes on top of the bed of the truck. and it's super strong, super durable. But they are thinking of developing a solar panel for the back of it, so you can get an extra little charge for free. And so I just think the overall management of electric vehicles and something like the Cybertruck is so much better. And to have, they're also developing a particular glass that is supposed to be almost impenetrable towards any hail damage. If someone throws a rock at the vehicle and everything, so it's supposed to be overall more affordable, more nicer, very fast, just very luxury car. And so I love Tesla. And I think Elon Musk he reminds me of like a Tony Stark of the real world. Here's where I get a little bit disappointed and where I kind of get confused with what's happening with this guy. This guy, Elon Musk, recently went on a podcast, and I will link the podcast episode in the description so that way you guys can check it out for yourself. But he went on a podcast discussing, I guess he was supposed to discuss his vehicles, what he's got like the Model X or the Model Y coming out pretty soon. And what ended up happening is the individual interviewing him, she asked him how he felt about the idea of COVID-19. And he started essentially saying, like, it's overhyped, that there's not that many deaths from COVID-19, that it's nothing to fear nor worry about, nor he doesn't believe in the idea. And he's openly said this on his Twitter as well, where he doesn't believe that we should close like anything down whatsoever. And yeah, he's like all around this COVID-19. I say COVID-19 denier, but it kind of is like that. Like he doesn't believe essentially it's anything. Um, and part of the interview that kind of like infuriated me and I thought was a bit ridiculous to do on his end was he decided to say, well, she asked him, well, he believes like, well, companies should stay open during the COVID-19 and there's not that many deaths. It's nothing to worry about. And then the interviewer of the podcast and proceeds to tell him, well, what would you do for a worker that is afraid to go back to work because of COVID-19? And he's like, well, I'd send them home. I'll tell them to go home. And she's like, okay, well, is this because, well, would you pay for him as he's allowed to go home? Or are you going to hold him accountable for this? And then does he have a job to come back to? And he refused to answer that question, which I think was obviously like a hint that he would probably fire the individual. So, and even in talks of the COVID-19 or whatever, he also threatened to leave the episode and end the interview right there. And it wasn't like she was pressing him to like irk him about the situation. She generally was calm and collected and was just curious on his take for the COVID idea. And I think what upsets me is like I feel like people of this higher status, and especially being the richest man in America, or I think one of the world, should probably have a little bit more responsibility to at least say to take the sanitization real and make sure that everyone's properly social distancing and etc. Right? I don't believe like I said, it's their responsibility not to implore ignorant thought.
Hmm.
So, what's your take on this, Austin? Like, how do you feel about this sort of situation?
I think that question that was asked him like would he just send them home with pay and stuff? I think that like a lot of people want to ask those questions, and everybody knows the answer is that they're going to fire the person. Everybody knows because like realistically, so long like I've been working the entire pandemic, and as long as the job is like actively making sure that they're making the environment as safe as possible, I feel like that is justified. I mean, just these companies, like, yes, like they're billion-dollar companies, but like one or two people is slowly going to trickle down. Like, if you let one person go home because they don't like feel comfortable or whatever, and next thing you know, it's just like a trickle down effect. It's just like in elementary school, if you let one kid go to the bathroom, next thing you know, every single one slowly says they need to go to the bathroom. And so I feel like he as long as he's putting in the like there's sanitization, good sanitization everywhere. There's distancing as best as they can. They're wearing masks or doing something to minimize the amount of contact between people. I don't think that anybody really should feel uncomfortable in the work environment anyways. And if they do, like I mean, if it's something like I can understand somebody say they have an immune disease or something like that. Like my younger sister has lupus. So that's one thing. But if it's just somebody who's like really paranoid, then like I feel like you've at some point there's a breaking point where it's got to be like, all right, dude, like you just got to work, you know? Um, so in some ways I agree with him. Now, if he's not putting in those measures to make sure it's safe, that's a whole different situation because it's like you're in an unsafe work environment. And then at that point, not only should you want to leave, but you also have like reasons as to why, say, he does fire you. And you can prove that the work conditions were not suitable for the time like that we're in right now, where there's no sanitization stations or whatever, or you're not being social distance. Then at that point, like you have a real case on your hands. But I feel like overall, as long as workplace is putting in all the steps and measures, doing everything they can, and I mean, eventually you just got to work, is what I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably agree with. I agree with that statement, right? Like, I feel that as long as right, he's implementing these safe work environments, then someone should really have no problem with showing up. But it was just the idea that he didn't address it too either, like whether or not he has a safe work environment or
Mm-hmm.
following these regulations. But I'm assuming that legally the state's probably forcing him to have these regulations.
You know?
And another thing that I found very jarring in regards to what he said was he discussed the deaths and saying like the death toll is exaggerated. And I don't necessarily think that's true. And I kind of think that's a little bit of a slap in the face to the people who did lose some of their family members due to COVID-19. Like, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
downplaying it when, yeah, sure, certain people can get the virus and be just fine, but others are not going to react, right? Like your sister, for example, she could react a lot worse. You don't know. That's
No.
what's so deadly about this virus. And for someone of that stature to downplay the virus and say, ah, it's nothing. And I think it's one thing saying it publicly, and it's another thing saying it to someone else, like I guess on a social level,
Mm-hmm.
and saying something like that so publicly, then there's where you get the influence of people still saying like, well, look, Elon Musk is a very smart guy. Like, I'm gonna listen to what he says as opposed to what our government says, right? So, and I think that's where you got to be careful with the
Mm-hmm.
messages you're putting out and how you're carrying yourself, because unfortunately when you become this wealthy or this influential
Influential.
as
Mhm.
a philanthropist essentially, you are going to be looked at in a different light. So the things you say have big repercussions. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough situation
Well,
that I wish you would have handled better.
yeah, that's what I was gonna. I think that I, I mean, I think that probably what he was referring to when he was talking about like death toll not being what it was is like I don't know when that podcast was recorded, but like I think not too long ago something came out about like the New York death tolls being skewed because of like a something that was going on. I saw something about it on the news. Whether it's true or not, I have no idea. I just saw it a little bit. So maybe he was referring to that, but the problem is like you've if you're going to make those kind of statements, you need to make sure and like basically be able to cite stuff in a sense. Like if you're going to make such a statement like that big, like deaths aren't that as many as they say there are. Like you've got to give like some real evidence instead of just like making that statement. If you're somebody of his stature, like he's him and Jeff Bezos keep going back and forth of being the wealthiest person, and it's either in the United States or in the world. Um, so it's like you have a very substantial voice, and he's like considered like a genius, and rightfully so in a lot of ways. Like he's very smart. So like it reminds me a lot of Donald Trump. They like they both have this way where they like to talk, like to speak their mind, and like sometimes what they're trying to say is supposed to come off one way because they just don't know how to like publicly speak. It ends up being like something that just sounds like completely ridiculous. Um, so, and I maybe that's because I mean they say a lot of people who are really smart have a lot of like social anxiety, so maybe that could be something. But
Well, yeah, I think with Elon Musk too, especially, you can see where he has this social quirks, right? Where he's speaking,
Mhm.
like when you pay attention to his mannerisms and the way he speaks, a lot of stuttering, a lot of you could see when his brain's working a lot faster than what he's saying.
Yeah,
And so for him, for sure, I know it's probably part of a social thing, but he also has, like, this kind of like out there viewpoint on
oh
certain
yes,
things, right? Like thinking that AI essentially is going to take over the world, which is, I mean, it's a genuine fear, right? But I don't
hmm,
think we're even close to it, right? I think
yeah,
that's years away. But so there's going to be like these ideologies that he has that are just super far out there. And I mean, I don't mean to shun someone with ideologies, right? Because, like, right, I think as being like a Christian individual, like such as myself, like there's ideals and beliefs that some people aren't going to agree with, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So it's not to shun them with that. It's just the idea that of the severity of
yeah,
this current pandemic. I don't think you need
yeah,
someone essentially denying it or using that ability to say, you know what, it's nothing, right? And as in regards to the death toll thing, when it comes to New York, I did hear that from an individual that I had spoke to a while ago. She has apparently an aunt, right? And this is, take it with a grain of salt because I don't know how factual the story is, right? And in recent times, right, you just have been people just acting so radical. So again, take it with a grain of salt. I'll put that warning out now. But she had said that um, her aunt was a nurse or something like that, and a lot of times when someone died with issues that weren't related to COVID-19, that they were marking them as COVID-19 uh, deaths. And they said
hmm,
that because apparently you receive some sort of grant and financial assistance if you're having so many COVID issues in the hospital. Now, I
hmm,
don't know how true that is, and I'm not out here to displace conspiracy theories or agree with this sort of idea, because I don't know if that is true. I think that's wrong, especially during a pandemic again, because then you're essentially harming the people whose family really did pass away from COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it's not right. Again, I'll reiterate that it's
Yeah,
an incorrect thing to do.
you're using the pandemic to your own personal gain, which is not okay. And that now that you're saying that's almost what I heard is that these hospitals up there allegedly were spiking up the numbers because they were getting all this influx of money from the government and their nonprofit organizations that were like popping up like weeds because of COVID. So, I mean, the whole idea behind that makes sense. Is it true or not? Uh, you know, I don't want to speculate and say which way, but if it is true, then that's very sad, and it would kind of prove kind of what Elon Musk was saying, but like at the end of the day, you still have to be very sensitive with your wording on stuff. Like we are in a very sensitive time. People are very sensitive in general nowadays, so you just gotta like it's not very hard for the most part to just kind of think about something before you say it and kind of try to word it as best as you can. I mean, not all of us are public speakers. We're not all these congressmen who can like dodge the question and like make it sound like they answered it, but they really didn't. Like we're not all that good with our words, but I mean, if you just sit there and think about it, you can give something that will at least eliminate most of the potential backlash that you would receive.
Yeah, another thing that I mean, you really touched on a topic that has been intriguing me. First off, we around this time we let me tell you, like my belief on humanity has really just shifted, right? Like you have such radicalist, like just crazy reactions that I've never seen in my whole life. Like, I mean, what you got, right? People freaking storming Capitol. You have people being outraged by pandemic stuff and refusing to wear masks. Like, you just have all these sort of strange things with humanity recently, like with our society. And I don't know, it's kind of disappointing to see, right? Like, I wish that we were all a little bit more caring and understanding of what is happening. Like, this is a good point, and it's like, where has the empathy gone for our generation? And is empathy essentially too much or is it too little, right? Because then we also have this idea of outrage culture. And it's something that I've addressed several times throughout the podcast. We talked about it in season one quite a bit. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, essentially. And for those of you who are offended, I don't mean to chop the same tree. And if you're offended for that, then I don't know what to say. But you have a lot of just what seems like a lot more outraged belief now, right? Like it's either their way or the highway type of thing, right? And I don't think any idea for that thinking allows for society to live peacefully. If you're
Mhm.
going off of the idea that I am always right and you're feeling you have to force those viewpoints on other people, I think that's an incorrect way about going things. I do not believe, and I'll repeat, that you should force your views onto someone else's ideology. Unless it's something that when it comes to murder or something insane, like some insane radicalist thing where they're like, yeah, I'm going to bomb something. You're going to be like,
Mhm.
no, no. Then you challenge someone on
Yeah.
that sort of idea. And I do believe, right, you stick up for some of your rights, but I think that in order to live peacefully and truly live in harmony, you have to respect others' beliefs. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's not worth like debating or fighting over or getting outraged for that person. For
Hmm.
example, right, like being Christian, right? There's so many also radicalist Christians. Like there's always bad apples in whatever you do. And so you
Hmm.
have all these bad apples like making it seem like oh, we hate this group and hate that group and they're going to hell and stuff like that. But in actual Christianity belief, you're not supposed to judge. And it
Hmm.
is not in your place to condemn anyone to hell, right? There's right and wrong. And it's simple as that. You yourself, it even says, right? Um, Salvation is individual, meaning that you worry about you, essentially,
Yeah.
right? And you have these radicalists like Christians and stuff like that pushing out beliefs, using their religion as a way to hate individuals when that is far from what Christianity should be. But
Yeah.
I'd see but we're in this sort of outrage culture where it's like, okay, can I come out and say that I'm Christian without having some huge debate, right? Like I don't, like I said, there's radicalist Christians out there that are just insane. I don't
Hmm.
even consider myself like with them, or I don't agree with what they have to say. And I don't know. It's I hate this society currently that where you have to feel fear of certain things that you believe and you gotta hold it. Oh, what political stance are you? Yeah, I want to believe in what I want to believe in, and leave me alone. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
debate it. I don't want to have some huge argument. I don't want to be forced to believe what you believe, and I don't want you to force. And I don't want to force you to believe what I believe.
Yeah.
It's
I think I
yeah, go
think the
ahead.
big problem in the world right now is that everybody is focused so much on what makes each other different. And that's the big problem is that everybody look on the news, you look on social media, no matter what it is, everybody you look at TikTok, for example. You'll constantly see TikToks where there's a girl and she's doing some dance and there's some guy in the comments that make some stupid comment about ooh she looks good or oh she shouldn't be wearing that or something like that. And then like you just see flocks and flocks of people that just like immediately attack the person. Like should you be commenting on somebody? No. Probably not. Like at you also like people are I guess you call them like people don't like the word but like gatekeeping in a sense like you're gatekeeping and trying to force your idea of what's okay and what's not okay onto other people. And while morally for you, that's what's right and what's wrong. But realistically, like morality is something that like can never be you can't measure it. Like there's no such thing as thing that is truly moral or truly immoral. It's only a person by person thing. I think that people are so focused on what they think is morally right and what somebody else is doing that automatically wrong. Like you should not. If you're a Republican, well, you're automatically an evil person because I'm a Democrat and everything Republicans believe in is wrong. Same way the other way. If you're a Democrat, oh, you must be awful because I'm a Republican and Democrats are awful. Blah 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 blah. Like people are just so focused on what's different about each other and then they attack each other on it and try to force the other person to believe in their way and it's like and that's like it's so different from like the early 2000s like to 2005 like up until like that point like people you would have a conversation you'd find out somebody was a Republican you'd be like oh okay whatever like obviously I'm sure probably internally people at that time that were older like had these like feelings they're like oh you're a Republican but like they weren't like they didn't feel like they just had to voice it and tell you what you could and could not do and I think that that's the big problem and I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a lack of empathy or having too much empathy,
right?
because
Like,
you could
yeah,
fight it either way, because like you have no empathy because you're like, nope, it's automatically wrong, like that's not okay. You don't want to listen. A lot of these people don't want to listen to why these people believe these things, whatever they believe. uh but then it's also like they might have so much empathy because they're like trying to teach them what they believe is right. And so it's just like a both sides of the same coin either way, that it's still a problem, and it's something that we as a society we need to solve, because like obviously right now the whole entire world is not very healthy. Like everybody's mindsets aren't necessarily healthy. Political space isn't healthy. Countries really aren't that healthy. And like we as a populace, we need to figure out and we need to solve this together and focus on more of the things we have in common than what we don't have in common.
yeah,
Like,
I agree with that. And if I can interject, is like, I feel that our society, like America, right, this melting pot, and because we are, you're never going to think the same thing as everyone next to you. You're always going to be different. And that is, I think, the amazing part of human society and humanity is that we all are uniquely us. Yeah, sure, we might look different in pigment or speak different or believe in different politics, but that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, and this is one thing that I've been doing a lot of research on and learning, especially in a current class of mine, and we're talking about the idea of how there is no such thing as like race. It's because we're all one race. We're all human. It's as simple as that. And I think we have to understand that. We're all human at the end of the day, and we have to unite. Put aside our differences and aside our beliefs and unite as a society of one ginormous human race, because that's what we are. And I think
yeah,
people are just taken to this crazy idea and they're just getting so caught up into, their own lifestyle that they just keep forcing others to believe their lifestyle. But
hmm
like I said, you have to unite somewhere. There's only one middle ground, and that's understanding that we're all uniquely us. We're all different. I'm not made to be you. You're not made to be me. We're all made to stand out. I rather stand out than fit in. And I think that's an incorrect way about going in life. If you're living in life trying to fit in, let me tell you something, maybe that's not the best way to live life. Because again, I can't tell you how to live your life, but personally, me, I don't believe in that. I believe in standing out, being different than the mold. I don't like being a cardboard cutout. I don't like being like this person, like that person. I want to be me. I want to be Justin.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to be Austin. I don't want to be Tyler or Junior. And I think
yeah.
that's what
Well,
makes this podcast great as well, is that we're all uniquely us. We all have different characteristics. We all have agreements and we all have disagreements. That's what
mhm,
makes us human, is our
yeah.
imperfections.
And I think that really like what all of this like trying to force each other to like feel the same way other people feel is what it ends up doing is it makes the divide bigger, obviously, because it's like on certain topics, if you don't believe this, then you automatically have to be all the way so far away that you're just like the polar opposite. And it's like, no, like I just don't believe this because of like these couple of things. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm way far. Oh, that's like, like, for example, the coronavirus. We were just talking about Elon Musk. Like for Elon, maybe he feels like he doesn't think it's as big of a deal because of the stuff that's coming out about the New York stuff, or maybe in his personal life he's had people get the virus and then become perfectly healthy afterwards. So like he's had things happen. Maybe the way it came across, of course, was like he sounded like he was so far he doesn't, like you were saying, he's like an anti-COVID guy. Like he doesn't believe it exists. Or in reality, it's like he just like there's a couple things that have made him feel like it's not as big of a deal as it is, which as just one person, like take the name away from it. If a person felt that way, like if I felt that way, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it's just heightened because of who he is. Like it's okay to have these differing like views on things and be like kind of almost at the fence, like you kind of believe certain things but you don't, and that's fine, and we should be celebrating our differences because at the end of the day, like we all have different journeys in life. Like Justin's journey is completely different than my journey. Tyler's journey is different than Justin's and mine. Junior's is different than all of ours. We all have come, all of our journeys are all different. And so therefore, it shapes us into different things. And for somebody to force you into this cookie cutter mold is basically saying, like, yeah, like, I know, Austin, that you had this experience when you were younger that really, like, put a really big stamp into your brain about how you didn't want things like this to happen ever again. But like I don't really care. I don't feel like that's right, so I'm going to force you into this cookie cutter mold. Like that's not okay. That's in a sense crapping on somebody's whole entire life in a sense, because like nobody just randomly wakes up and decides anything in life. Like it's a slow evolution to what they end up becoming and what their beliefs are. And like I said, like a lot of effort is put into that. And so I feel like we should be celebrating these differences. There's a lot of differences between men and women, and like Americans versus people in the UK or people in China versus Japan. Like there's all these differences culturally, religiously, and we should celebrate those and be like, wow, we are one race because, like you said, we're all the human race, but yet we can be so different and be okay with it. That's how everybody should think. Like, it's awesome for me to be in America and love to play Xbox, but then some person in Japan be like, oh, I love playing my PlayStation, but I don't like Xbox, and I can be like, oh, I don't like PlayStation. It's like, awesome, that's cool. Like you don't like what I like, I don't like what you like, that's fine. Like whatever. Yeah. And I think that people just are so focused, like I said, so focused on our differences, and they want to change them, and they want to make everybody the same. They want to make this one cookie cutter person for the entire world. And what we should be doing is the opposite, celebrating those differences, because that's at the end of the day, what my difference from me to you is what makes me Austin and you Justin.
Yeah. And I believe too that, also in the vein of outrage, right, you have this sort of cancel culture as well. And I believe this too. And I think I'll leave this at this note before we go to break, is that I believe people can grow and people can change. And if you don't offer people the room to grow or change, they never will. You cannot shun everybody. I think you have to hold them accountable, right? But allow them the time and the ability to change. Because whether you want to believe it or not, I believe that people deserve second chances. And I think that's something to keep in mind. And I hope that you guys take this and really use this to progress your thought and just take some time to simmer on this idea, because these are ideas that are to bring us together as opposed to bring us apart, which is what I felt, recently with a lot of the things happening in the world. But with that said, we're going to cut to a quick break from our sponsors. So I hope you guys enjoy those word from our sponsors, and stay tuned because we have some very interesting current events that we're going to talk about. So yeah, enjoy this word from our sponsor. I often find myself wondering, what's next? What lies ahead? Where do I go? How far will I go? We often think about tomorrow. But what's the point? What's the point of not looking at what we have in front of us? Why not look to the present and be grateful? Why do you run from today? What difference does it make if everything you have today can be gone tomorrow? So I urge you, live for today. Search EBXYA on Amazon today to get all of your XLR cable needs. Link in the description. Adam Stone, a unique and talented artist hitting the alternative rock scene. Listen to him as he jams his way into becoming a new hit artist.
But now you will, 'cause I am bringing you down. I'll take you off your chair, setting fire what's left from your hair. Someday.
Listen to Adam Stone singles for free on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Surrounding me. I don't know why I was chosen to live like this every day, every day, every day. I don't know why pain.
You can follow your favorite ghost, Adam Stone, on Instagram and Facebook. Link in the description. And we're back from that word from our sponsors, actually. I forgot to mention before that we plugged both of them as of right now because this episode's going to be an hour. It's just because it's us two, and we don't have all three of us for essentially a longer episode. And I figured we'll keep it short for everyone. But with that said, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell and actually follow us on our social media. Again, link is in the description. You'll see our link tree. Click it. It'll also, if you're on YouTube, it'll take you to Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you feel most comfortable listening to it. We're there. So give us a check. I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening. The consistent 41 subscribers listening out there for every episode. I thank you guys so much. You truly are the beginnings of a great and wonderful community where we're open with one another and we respect one another. And I'm excited to see where we're going to go. Again, it's also worth reminding you guys that season 3 the end of season 2 will be afoot around May. I'll have a more specific date for you, and then we'll be back next September. So just know that we'll be recording in the summer. You guys won't know. But anyway.
Spoiler.
Yeah, a little spoiler for you guys. But we'll be working on season 3 and everything this summer. So just be prepared for some fun and interesting things so you guys can be able to catch up. But with that said, I also want to get into Call of Duty.
Good old Call of Duty.
I think it's well aware if you listen to the podcast that me and Austin here have been fans of Call of Duty. And Warzone has taken my life by storm for a while. I've been on like a 2-month break from Call of Duty because I hit 100 wins. And I was like, you know what? It's too toxic. There's it's littered with meta weapons and hackers. And sure enough, Call of Duty in recent news had banned 60,000 players for hacking. And as a result of it, well, Steve, what was the result?
Absolutely no. Still hackers and hackers. All these people did is just made new accounts. I at this point, the game is, to me, pretty dead. I can't play the game, or I haven't played the game. I've people have listened to this podcast, and I've defended Call of Duty every single time it's been brought up. But eventually, I understand. I'll still say I'm sure coronavirus probably plays into some of it, but at the end of the day, like it's still a problem, and I'm not enjoying the game anymore because there's hackers. Every time they update the game, there's new bugs for people to use, or the same bugs pop back up. Like, how do you let the stim glitch pop into your game like 5 times? It just doesn't make any
And the
sense. Like, you would think
invisibility
you would
glitch
know.
came in
Yes.
twice.
Yes, it's. I mean, to me, I think Warzone. I know for a lot of the people that I play Xbox with, people aren't playing Call of Duty anymore. I mean, it's just gotten to the point where it's just so messed up. I mean, the last game I played of Call of Duty, we we landed, we got killed by a hacker, we got back our gulag, we landed somewhere else, and below and behold, another hacker kills us again. Completely different person. So not only were we in a lobby with one hacker, but we were in a lobby with two hackers. And verified hackers. Now there could have been this was like trio, so all three of the people on those teams could have been hacking. I have no idea. But I mean it's so bad. I mean, I get ups to them for banning 60,000 accounts. It's a lot of people, and I'm sure it took a lot of work to do that, but until you get some type of system in place that automatically bans people the minute it catches these things happening, you're never going to get anywhere because there's all these people are just going to continuously make more and more accounts, and it's just going to be too much for people to manually go in and look. You just have to build some type of coded system in place. Otherwise, it's just never going to work. You're going to be overflowed, and if you were to like do it correctly and like make sure it doesn't happen, you would have to have everybody in your team working on that and only that. And I mean, while we would enjoy the fact that there's no longer hackers, we would hate the fact that the game is probably going to be the same for the next 10 years because they'll still be banning people in Warzone that were hacking 10 years prior. So
Yeah, it's
it's a
completely
mess.
ridiculous. Like I think for a game studio and a game title of that magnitude, AAA title, and you're gonna tell me you guys don't have an anti-cheat system? What? For one of the most popular Royale games, first off, the lack of map content is insane. I need more than just a hole in the ground to interest me in a game's map. Like, I need more than a little Cold War event to make me happy about this Battle Royale experience. Like, as much as I have a distaste for Fortnite, what I do appreciate about them is that they're consistently changing. And you're talking about Fortnite that was never essentially meant to be this crazy AAA title, but it took off like just so quickly. But the immense content that is constantly being thrown into Fortnite, I love it. It's fantastic. And I don't know why Call of Duty's not doing that. Like, they just have all of these bugs and issues and things that, again, makes your experience, it ruins it for you. Like, you're not having fun. It doesn't feel like there's skill involved when it comes to a meta weapon. It doesn't feel like there's skill
Mhm.
involved, obviously, when there's hackers. And it takes the fun out of it. If you want to make a competitive shooter, then why in the world are you going to take the competitive aspect out of it and allow these cheaters and to allow these bugs to persist in your game? I
Yeah.
think that the heads like Activision should definitely be cracking the whip out there, or like just freaking pushing people to make sure that this is as best as it is, because they're receiving tons of money from their uh you know skins essentially that they're adding into the game and stuff like that. Like, I for one have never really invested that much money into character skins. until Call of Duty, like this new one, because I thought they made such cool, unique, and dynamic skins that are fun to use, but not anymore. It was a waste of money because this game has just been flooded with glitches and all that sort of stuff, which now is going to have me holding on to my wallet for the next Call of Duty. I don't even know if I want to purchase it. So it's like one of those things where I'm just disappointed that these sort of developers would just do that. And then the banning thing, right? Like, I have respect for them for doing that, but here's the thing. Half those hackers that you've banned were probably people outside, like not you guys, but like literally me and Austin reporting people. Like, we did your job for you finding these
Yeah.
hackers.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
like, you did half of the rest of the step as opposed to what we did, you know?
mhm.
Um,
Well, and you brought up Activision, and I think I lay 100% of the blame at Activision's feet. I believe I mean, it is in the past, uh, developers. I mean, Bungie came out whenever they cut ties with Activision about how Activision is just like, so they're like, I don't know if you heard, like, EA for a long time and still is. It's just like they only care about the money. That's all they care about. Like, I know there's a big thing about FIFA right now where it's literally the same game every single year. They're not changing anything, but they're making billions and billions of dollars off of it because of the fantasy team or whatever it's called on that game. Where it's basically what they're doing is they have a casino built into their game because it's just random chance what you get. So I think the same thing is happening with Activision. I think that all they're looking at is the dollar signs, and they're pushing these developers. They're like, just don't worry about the cheaters. We need to focus more. We need to put out more guns. We need to be changing up the meta more often. Blah 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 blah. We just need to do these other things. Who cares about the cheaters? Like, they sense kind of like how EA did with their FIFA community. They're taking advantage of the fact that Call of Duty is the best selling game every single year.
yeah.
I mean, almost every single year except for the year GTA 5 came out, Call of Duty is the number one sold game. So they're really taking advantage of that, and Activision has been known to do that. They did that with Bungie. They were ones that like basically killed Destiny 2 for a while. So I truly believe that all of the blame lies on Activision's feet, and they're just sitting there looking at it, and they don't really care, is what it really is, because most people don't want to bring up the fact that it's probably Activision's fault. A lot of people are blaming these Treyarch, Infinity Ward, Raven Software, Sledgehammer. They're blaming all of these like smaller development groups, and it's like, in reality, they're basically doing whatever they're told, because if they don't do what they're told, they're going to lose their job. And there's like 60 people that they already have, Activision has resumes for, that can replace that person. So it's really sad.
It's
Really
sad, yeah. And here's another thing with that too, is that I feel like, again, the people need to hold these companies accountable. Now, these are one of those instances where I'm like, yeah, we need to rally together and say we're not going to put up with this. Like, companies like EA and Activision really need to hear the consumer's voice. Now, when I remember these loot box gambling essentially was happening with EA back in Battlefront 2, people band together. They said, "Oh hell no, we're not. We're not putting up with that. Like, we're not doing that." And so it had them reconstruct the whole design of Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Sorry, to be more specific, they reconstructed it. The game had second wind. And now people are speculating, right, that there's going to be a third game. But look at what listening to the community does, essentially, to video games. It's very positive, crazy outreach. Look at our last podcast episode. We talked about Microsoft listening to the people about Xbox Live. Was it that difficult? You're going to keep your consumer bases. Is there something wrong with that? Like I'm openly saying that if Activision can fix this Warzone whole thing, I would go back to only playing Warzone and throwing my wallet at Call of Duty and saying like, yeah, I'll purchase these cool character packs. But I will not do that if you don't fix your game. So it's like they need to just, listen. Here's another sad thing is Warzone and Call of Duty lost one of their biggest so far partners that used to play that is known for playing Call of Duty Warzone. That is Vicstar. He's a YouTuber. Again, you guys can look it up, Google it. Vicstar is taking a step back from Call of Duty Warzone. Why? Because he has video footage of these hackers killing him, as well as, how would you say, they were streaming it on Facebook, them hacking and using the hacks. And he was watching the full stream. And it's funny and worth mentioning that they still died anyway with the hacks. But there's no fun in cheating, right? Like there's just no fun at all. But in the vein of companies and keeping along the podcast is that, which is also very strange and something that I kind of want to talk about, is Paramount has also come out with a statement of Paramount Plus. So we have Disney Plus, we have Paramount Plus. We got the Peacock app. We have
Discovery
HBO
Plus.
Max. So we have all of these, how would you say, streaming services. And first off, I don't know how I feel yet, right? Like there's all these different streaming services. I personally start to believe that this could be a possible fault for Netflix. They might fall a little bit, or I don't know, depending on how well this captures people's attention. Because now Netflix, I don't know how they're going to be able to license out videos, essentially. Because if they can't license out a Paramount film because Paramount has a Paramount Plus, or a Disney film because Disney has Disney Plus, how are they going to survive? So I'm kind of afraid for the future of what this means for Netflix. I'm hoping
Yeah, I
they'll
think
stay
Netflix
alive.
might be in trouble.
Yeah.
I think obviously Netflix they've kind of started transitioning to it. They were transitioning before, and I think the only thing that might save them is the fact that they started making Netflix original content. But the problem is be churning out more. That's the issue, because now you have Paramount Plus, you have Disney Plus, you have Hulu, which is owned by Disney. I don't know if a lot of people know that or not, but Hulu is owned by Disney. You have HBO Max, you have the Peacock app. I don't know if I said it already, but we have the Paramount Plus, and then Discovery Plus is another thing that's come out. Like all of these companies are now like these. You look at on your cable, you see NBC, you see Fox, all of these like big names, ESPN, are now making their own app. And so I think it looks like it's slowly leading up to where eventually these companies are going to kill cable. I think that like DirecTV, Dish, Cable One, whatever, all of these like TV programmers or whatever you want to call them, TV providers, are all going to go away, and you're just going to be picking and choosing your subscriptions now. And I think in some ways it'll be good because of course, if you only watch sports, you can just get the ESPN subscription and you have all your live sports and you don't got to worry about it. If you only watch Disney movies, like you have a kid, like my sister, she has Disney Plus. That's the only thing that's on their TV. They don't need cable. at that point. So in those aspects, it'll be good. The downside is for people who like to watch more. So like the people who they like to watch some of the stuff on HBO Max, but they also like to watch Disney. But then they also like to watch the Discovery Plus stuff, and they want to see the Paramount movies. They also like the Netflix original content, and eventually, slowly, that dollar amount, because I'm sure probably all of these subscriptions are going to be like $5 a month with ads, like Hulu does, or maybe there's like a package deal or something. But bare minimum, you're probably going to be spending $5 a month. Eventually, you're going to definitely get to the point where you're spending more money picking all of these apps than you are by just going through DirecTV and getting your cable. And I don't know, for me, it'll be fine because I don't watch a lot of TV, but for other people, I think it's going to end up costing more money in the long
I
run.
mean, as far as I'm aware, these streaming services are cheaper than paying for like $300 a month for like a package deal of internet and cable. Like I remember at a time, like when we were paying for cable one time, it was around like 300 something, like no joke, paying for cable, which is we never watched, and internet until
Mhm.
it wasn't until they decided, like, okay, well, and this was Comcast, that they decided, okay, well, we're just going to have an internet only option. Then I was like, okay, I'd rather just pay for that than paying for cable. So it's
Mhm.
going to be cheaper because you're going to have all this specific content and stuff like that. But what is kind of scary is like the discovery of new shows and the discovery of
Mhm.
like like for example, I want to be creating animations and stuff like that for television. How is my animation going to do well if it's only on a streaming service and only people can view it on this streaming service? So
Yeah.
yeah, it could very much be a very negative aspect to creativity and to discovery for audiences.
Mhm.
Perfect for marketing, right? Like you'll have all the marketing information that you need to market
Mhm.
to a specific set of people. But it's also, again, just very scary because it doesn't leave an open, uh, it doesn't open a Pandora's box of curiosity for television.
Yeah.
So it's just a scary thing, and I would hate to see a company like Netflix also falling because all of these Paramount Plus and all these movie productions owning their own streaming services, because then Netflix, what do you have? Just originals? And to be honest, I wouldn't pay for Netflix if it was only originals. I go there because
Yeah.
there's so much content on there that I can
Mhm.
watch. So I hope not. And another thing is like, where does this leave the movie theaters, right? Because now you have HBO Max releasing all these new films onto HBO Max. Are you going
Yeah.
to have people not wanting to go to theaters and just watch it from home? Or,
I
how's that sort of industry going to possibly play out?
I think that in some ways it'll definitely hurt movie theaters. I think the amount of movie theaters will definitely decrease because like Disney Plus is doing that right now. But this, I mean, it's kind of hard to gauge whether this is going to be like a thing or if it's just because of COVID. I don't know. I don't know what the money looks like. I would have to dive into Disney Plus's like dollar signs and figure out, hey, are they making more by just uploading it to their streaming service, or do they make more, sending it into theaters? It's I'm hoping it's not a thing that's going to happen on a regular basis. I think what would be cool to see is like for people who don't like to go to movie theaters, maybe your uh your maybe you spend $2 extra a month on your Disney Plus and you get automatic access to all new movies. I think that would be cool. But because that would allow like people like me, I'm not going to do that. I don't need that. But other people might want to do that. So it would kind of create like a little bit of a barrier, like a entrance barrier in a sense, and you could discuss whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it would be a good thing because if you remove movie theaters, that's a big industry that you would kill.
Yeah, and I think if it's up to me, I want the social aspect of a movie theater. I want to be able to show up and have enjoyment, have fun, and there's nothing like the experience of experiencing a movie in a movie theater, like being next to other people and just watching reactions, or just
Mhm.
simply just something about the environment and the ambiance of movie theaters is fantastic and
My
magical.
experience with Endgame wouldn't be
Oh,
completely different without being if I was not in a
yeah.
theater when it
If
on
if
release
I
day
didn't
because
hear
it
the
was
whole
full.
crowd clapping,
Oh,
like
the environment made the movie because like spoiler alerts for anybody who hasn't seen them. If you haven't seen it, you're know what you're doing. When Captain America has freaking Thor's hammer in his hand and just starts beating the snot out of Thanos, the whole theater just goes nuts. When
yeah,
Tony Stark snaps his fingers, oh my! The environment like you will not get that at home. Obviously,
it
it
would have
would
been
ruin it.
just me crying at Tony's death by myself, like
Instead of sharing the sorrows and the excitement through the whole movie
yeah,
of the excitement, the high of watching Thanos get his butt whooped by uh, Captain America and him picking up the hammer. All those years of the buildup of him, like he tried to pick it up, it just slightly moving, and then the build up to that, where you see it because everybody kind of like they saw it, or some people didn't, and then to happen, all the excitement, and for you to then have the super super low of like Tony Stark just saved the world, but he also just died. He's like arguably the most important person in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because he started everything. Now he's gone. Like if you experience that roller coaster by yourself, it would not have as big of an impact as experiencing it with like I don't know how many people are in a movie theater, 60, 80, whatever it
yeah.
is. All those strangers who all feel the same way and you just like can all just revel in the excitement and the sadness together.
I'll
There's nothing that would
never,
beat that.
I'll never forget my first experience seeing the first Avengers film, which is like the first time ever you're seeing multiple superheroes through multiple films have a culmination and a combination where they came together and made one giant film. Like that was one of the most exciting moments, and to hear people screaming like, "Oh my gosh," like during the film, it just felt so nice, and just
So
hearing those shock moments. And I'll never forget the first time I seen a scary movie in a
all
movie
the
theater, and I heard that person yell, "Oh hell no!" Like it was hilarious. Like you'll never get to experience that if you didn't have movie theaters.
well,
So
plus if movie
go ahead.
theaters are gone, where are you gonna take girls on dates, bro?
Yeah, you know how
The
many
heck?
dates I have with movie theaters? Like, it's insane. Like,
Yes.
it's almost the perfect date because then afterward you talk about the movie and it doesn't feel awkward because you could segue into, oh, I like that scene, or that movie sucked, or that. I remember going on a date and we were just making fun of the movie afterward.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a horror movie. We weren't too scared. And we're talking back and forth, and it was a fantastic time. And where would I have that memory if we didn't have movie theaters?
A lot
So,
of people's first kiss was probably in a movie theater too.
yeah,
Like it could change so many things.
like there's just
Wow.
there's so much wonder that surrounds movie theaters, and to be honest, I can't wait till this pandemic's over because I know that society will go back to normal. And I generally feel it, right? I'm talking in positivity sense that we're going to be where we were. And I can't wait for that moment. But with that said, I think we're nearing the end of our podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this experience with me and Austin. If you guys like it, comment down below, leave a like, and maybe I'll do another one-on-one with Austin soon. It was fantastic. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The topics were popping. Please, again, follow us, like, subscribe, and that whole thing. I'm not going to, I'm not going to make it a little bit overbearing for you guys. But, again, I will have that link for the Elon Musk interview for you guys. Just so if you guys wanted to check it out and see what I was talking about. Because I know I didn't really throw a lot of quotes and stuff from there. But with that said, we love you. Bye.